welcome back to another episode of Hyper Heroes here on Hyper RPG. It's kind of a light week, surprisingly. Every week that we come in here, I know.
Well, you know what?
We are suffering right now.
Yeah, this beer is terrible.
Okay, we got two things to address. First of all, I just realized, not this weekend, but next weekend, New York Comic Con.
Yes.
That's probably why it's a bit of a light week in terms of like superhero movie projects news. Second thing we have to address, we are drinking some shit beer right now.
Ice cubes in our cups.
Just
You don't do that.
You don't do that.
forgive us our trespass. We had to put some ice in some warm room temp beer to just get it going.
Terrible beer.
That's what happens,
Nice
boys.
going.
That's how, when ballers on a budget.
He's
that's what
balling
happens.
on a budget.
Also, never mind. I won't call that out.
Ugh.
I'll keep that last note to myself.
You mean that you look like the king of England over here?
You know, when you're
Very
tall.
You're very tall.
Very tall, very tall.
That's okay.
I'm a tall glass of water.
Yeah.
Augustine and I are your loyal subjects.
Yes, you are.
The
Sire.
little brown people who serve you.
Can I still be honorary brown?
Hector's emotions just exploded inside, and then he just wrapped it all up.
This beer is so bad.
Yeah, this beer's really bad.
Hector came in and he was like, "Can I get some soju?" And I was like, "We ran out, baby." He's like, "You got anything else?"
Okay. Hey,
We have some
We have room temperature
can I
beer.
get some of that soju?
Any more of that soju?
Y'all got some more of that beer?
I just want to let you guys know that this Saturday, starting at noon, we're going to be doing HyperDrive Volume 5. We're going to have a full day from noon all the way till midnight. We're going to have a bunch of different RPGs. We're going to have our Hyper Sketch show. But we are also going to be doing a live script reading of Roger Corman's officially unreleased Fantastic Four. The only thing that will spoil is that you're playing Doctor Doom.
I'm still looking for a robot voice changer. I'm hoping to find one tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
So I can
All right.
actually have the Doom voice.
Nice.
Do you have a
That'd be
Doom
awesome.
mask?
No, I have a metal mask. It's like a calavera, like a Day of the Dead kind of thing.
Ooh. Do you have an MF Doom mask?
No, a buddy of mine does.
Oh, okay, cool.
Buddy of mine does, but I'll ask.
I might try to get a Dr. Doom mask.
See if
Let's
you can get one for me.
See if I can get one. See if I can get one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do
cool.
we have any Hulk gloves that can spray paint red?
Yeah. Spray paint orange? Yeah.
Orange?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
sure we could do that.
Yeah.
Why not? But yeah, so we're doing that. That's gonna be starting at noon, going all the way till midnight. The live scripting will be starting at 4. Gonna start at 6. Go till about 8 p.m. So make sure you guys join us. Twitch.tv/hyperrpg. We got a lot of special guests, a lot of fun stuff lined up for the whole day. If you watched them before, you know what to expect. If you
good time.
can't make it, no worries, because it'll get ported over to YouTube the following weekend.
Yeah.
With that out of the way, also want to let you guys know that because of Wonder Woman's lovely Blu-ray release, I'm going to be giving away 1 copy of Wonder Woman on Blu-ray, and I will let you know at the end of the show how you can potentially win that. So stay tuned.
Can I have it?
No,
God damn it.
You guys can come over to my place and watch it in 3D though.
Oh, that's right, huh?
that's fine. I can watch it in my
Let's have
place
a
in
movie.
3D and in 4K.
Whatever. All right.
Shut
That's
up,
fine.
Adam.
But let's get into the first topic. So, like I said, it was pretty light week for superhero news. I think mostly because you're saying it's New York Comic Con's coming up. Then we have Thor and Justice League are pretty much right around the corner. In the next 4 weeks or so, I think we'll probably all be watching those movies.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's really light right now. And then we have Star Wars after that. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is this very interesting tidbit from Danny Elfman. He was being interviewed by Billboard.com, who was asking him kind of about just sort of his legacy in scoring movies and all that kind of stuff, and it got to the topic of Justice League. As we all know, he took over composing from Junkie XL, who had been working on these movies since Batman vs. Superman. I think he had also kind of worked on in some capacity on Man of Steel, assisting Hans Zimmer with some music. But this is interesting because Hans Zimmer, he had been scoring these superhero movies pretty much since Batman Begins. He had done all the Christopher Nolan films, then he came in at Man of Steel, and now because of Zack Snyder's exit from the movie, Junkie XL had taken over for Hans Zimmer. Junkie XL didn't want to necessarily do it unless Zack was doing it, so he sort of stepped away from the project. Yeah, and then Joss Whedon brought Danny Elfman on, which for me, I love this because to me, Danny Elfman, like the original Batman scores that he did, are awesome. Yeah, I love those. They're so cool. That theme influenced the animated series theme, which is then adapted in multiple ways.
I feel like if you're talking like DC movies overall, the 3 names for like brilliant scores have to be John Williams, Danny Elfman, Hans Zimmer. Do you know what I mean? That's like the trinity right there. It's like those 3.
I would almost put Hans
composers.
Zimmer. I would almost put I was gonna say I would almost maybe put Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard into one.
Sure.
But I would say that Hans Zimmer as a solo composer did a lot more.
Continuing to and then again worked on Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, and so so if you're gonna pull somebody to, like as a replacement,
right,
you can do much worse than Danny F. Elfman. You know what I mean?
Well, he also did
brilliant.
He also did the Flash theme. A lot of people may forget this. He did the Flash theme to the '90s TV show John Wesley Shipp.
That was a fun one.
He created that one, and
that was a fun one.
So it's cool. So it's cool to see him kind of stepping back into the DC universe,
and of course Spider-Man, and of course
exactly Sam Raimi Spider-Man. He did Avengers: Age of Ultron, but this is his first time being back in the DC world. I think since Batman Returns, which is all the way in 1992, 25 years. So that's a long time. But one of the things that he says, he talks about the other themes that he implemented into the movie. Because I remember a long time ago we did a show where we were talking about the themes of these characters, the musical themes.
Sure.
And how Hans Zimmer had said that he was kind of trying to create themes for each of these characters that would then sort of be used in future movies. And this was before he left. This is before he decided to not do Justice League.
Right.
But he said that he had ideas for what Aquaman's theme would be, Flash's theme, Cyborg's theme.
Yeah.
All these characters. He obviously helped create the theme for Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
Right.
So Danny Elfman was saying that he found a way of obviously using the Wonder Woman theme that Hans Zimmer had created in Justice League. But he also talks about, which I thought was very interesting, he says, I instated a moment of the Wonder Woman theme that Hans Zimmer did for Batman versus Superman. But I also had 2 minutes where I had the pleasure of saying, let's do John Williams' Superman. And that for me was heaven, because now I have a melody to twist, and I'm using it in an actually very dark way. In a dark way. It's kind of the thing that some fans will notice, some won't. It's a moment where we're really not sure whose side he's on. So he kind of revealed multiple things that I think are very interesting. One of them being that...
kind of like huge spoilers, actually.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And I know that there have been rumors on the internet for quite a while that Superman is potentially going to come back. Maybe not necessarily as a bad guy, but he will come back in sort of a capacity where he's unsure as to who he is, what he is, what kind of a mental state he'll be in. We don't really know. Some people have been saying, it's been sort of rumored that he may be not completely 100% evil, but he will kind of be unsure of himself and who he is. But how do you guys feel about, one, that comment alone of Superman maybe coming back as some sort of a villain character or a character who's kind of confused as to who he is.
In a dark moment.
Exactly. And then also the moment of actually using that classic John Williams theme.
What do you think, Augustine?
Well, okay, so it's interesting. I feel like this was major spoilers, first of all. If he's talking about using the Superman theme, a composer like him doesn't really take things lightly. Like, he really knows what he's doing. And when he uses the Superman theme, to me, it's like, so you're telling me there's a chance? It's like, I don't feel like it's a spoiler, but I feel like it's it's excellent news that he kind of is, furthermore from the director, is embodying what we have been saying this whole time, where we need that old school Superman feeling back.
Sure.
And having it in the theme is also very important. I know you guys pay much more attention than I do to the themes, but if it's something that even I can notice, like with movie scores,
but
and stuff,
you're like a musical guy. That's
I'm
you're a musician.
I'm a musician. Part-time. I'm not a good musician, but I'm a musician.
But music is a passion.
It's a passion of mine, absolutely. But what I'm saying is, like, in movie score wise, like Hector, you listen to nothing but movie scores.
I do. That's basically mostly my iPod.
Adam, you listen to basically 90%.
I listen to Superman.
You listen to music scores. You listen to Metallica and Linkin Park.
Yeah.
And AC/DC. Yeah. So there you go.
I have a very interesting taste in music.
Yeah. If percentage-wise, movie scores in my musical taste are like 1%. Like, I
it's Lord of the Rings.
It's Lord of the Rings.
It's Lord of the Rings. It's Daft Punk. No, you don't even like Tron Legacy score.
It's okay.
And you're a huge Daft Punk fan. Yeah,
it was okay. I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
But that being said, when there are music scores that really get you, they get you, and that's what I'm hoping. It's terrible.
It's almost undrinkable
beer. And that's what I'm hoping happens with these movies, because when music is done right, it seems effortless. And when characters, I'm going to go back to Lord of the Rings because that's what I do. Yeah. Like, every character had its own musical instrument. Like, the hobbits had woodwinds. The elves had like these big trumpets. The orcs had like drums and dirty trumpets. Yeah. And like the humans had actually, they had the trumpets. The dwarves had like more light things. But it's little things like that that composers like Danny Elfman think about that make the score really, really great. And therefore, I think bringing this kind of talent to this caliber movie that can really use that kind of a talent is nothing but good news, I think. Even though it does kind of run into spoilery territory, I think it's good.
It's been really interesting how Warner Brothers and like DC Entertainment has been handling the promotion / non-promotion of Superman as a character in this movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know I'm making a point that might bum you out, but I know you're reacting to the beer right now.
I'm reacting to the beer right now.
It's almost undrinkable, you guys. But it's interesting because like they'll be at Comic-Con and the actors will be like, jokingly, Superman's dead. And then another actor will be like, hey, man, if you're a fan of Superman, you're going to love what we've done in this movie. Yeah. But then we're hearing these reports of, like, he's a brainwashed bad guy.
I mean,
he's
Jason
coming back
Momoa even said that, though. Remember? He said it to that little kid at Comic-Con.
And it's funny, but it's interesting to see, like, how that studio is handling this character. And is it because it's a sort of, like, Star Trek Into Darkness, my name is Khan secret reveal that they don't want to spoil? Mm-hmm. Or is it because... is it like a Disney is afraid to call John Carter of Mars because they have research that shows that Mars in a movie title doesn't make money? So they're like, well, Superman, we don't know. We want to sell things with Batman. We want to sell, like, is that what's happening? It's just been interesting to see like what's been coming out in regards to is Superman in this movie? We know that he is, but we've heard nothing. Yeah. You know what else? It might be a sort of a reaction, or at least like okay, we've heard you guys when we put out the trailer with Doomsday for Batman v Superman, and fans were like, oh, don't show us Doomsday. Maybe they were like, okay, let's not show them our huge moment in this movie, the return of Superman. Like that might be what it is too. So
I really hope they learn from that. Yeah.
Well, and I love that. For me, I think for me, I take different superhero movies differently. Like I know in the Age of Ultron trailer, at the very end of one of them, they give us a really quick glimpse of Vision, but to me that wasn't that big of a deal because it was literally like a quick glimpse, and I'm not as attached to those characters, so for me it was cool to see it. With this, I would hate to get so right now the report is that we're going to get a new trailer next week because of New York Comic Con. There was Jeff Johns was at the summit for NATO, which is the national theater organizations that come together and they preview like what's coming out in theaters. But they showed a brand new trailer for Justice League there.
It's also the North American Trade Organization.
North American. That's
that's NATO.
Yeah. But so they show the trailer. So and I hope the next week when we see it that we don't see Superman. I don't want to. I don't want to know how he comes back. I don't want to. The way they did it in the last trailer, where you see Alfred talking to somebody, and we all assume that it's Superman, which it probably is Superman. To me, that's like the best way to tease that character.
The reason why I love this tease is because there's so much debate over it now. Because you don't know. Because they show maybe a slight blurry red cape. Maybe, but that could be my eyes playing tricks on me. Like it could be the light bouncing off something. Like we don't know.
It's all like purposeful. It's all not necessarily a misdirect, but you could tell that they were shooting those scenes knowing this is going to be in the trailer. Yeah, and we don't want it, but we want Jeremy Irons to be like, I had hoped. We're not too late. Like it's all deliberate. It's all deliberate. So
it's this evil Superman.
Or Supergirl, as some people are saying, or Martian Manhunter,
Green Lantern,
or somebody. You know, like somebody, which is. I think it's good marketing because now everybody's talking about it and everybody's watching it over and over and over again, trying to dissect it. You're not going to get any more information that we already have. Like it's true. You could dissect it till you fucking die.
That picture up all night.
Yeah, you could stare at it all night, but it's not going to give you any information.
And as far as like hearing the John Williams score, I'm torn on this. I know that Adam's super jazzed about it, and you were tweeting about it and stuff, and you were really excited. And I was like, okay, good. I want to have this conversation when we do Hyper Heroes tonight of this idea of like, when Danny Elfman was comparing it to, well, just do me a favor, Adam. Just read the next paragraph because this is kind of what I want to talk about.
Yeah, he talks about basically the legacy of the music, and he says the people at DC are starting to understand we've got these iconic bits from our past, and that's part of us. That's part of our heritage. We shouldn't run away from that. Contemporary thinking is every time they reboot something, you have to start completely from scratch, which, of course, audiences will tell us again and again is bullshit. because the single most surviving and loved theme in the world is Star Wars, which they had the good sense to not dump for the reboots. And every time it comes back, the audience goes crazy.
Okay, now stop right there. Here's the thing. Danny Elfman, you're brilliant. but that is a little. I mean, you
a little big for his britches.
If you really press Danny Elfman on that, he'll be like, "No, I know that Star Wars: The Force Awakens is Episode 7. I know that the prequels were 1, 2, and 3. Like, it's not quite a reboot. Those are still those are like sequels.
Those are
in another instance of Star Trek. J.J. Abrams using pieces of that score, but kind of doing new stuff for that for Michael Giacchino's score for the new Star Trek. Again, I could argue that that's technically a sequel. It is a reboot, but they're using old Spock. It takes place at the end of Star Trek and at the beginning. And in any case, it's still like going back in time in the timeline of what was established. Man of Steel was not, a what if for the John Williams. Richard Donner Superman, where it's like, what if General Zod got to Earth sooner, but it's a different actor playing this character, but it's the same world of 1978 Superman. Like, that's not Man of Steel was a completely new thing. So when he's bringing up the idea that like, well, they're going to keep using Star Wars, I'm kind of like, because it's chapters of a long saga is how they're pitching
it's
it.
Still technically the same story.
In the case of Man of Steel, with the new DCEU, it's different than the Dark Knight trilogy. It's different than Danny Elfman's Tim Burton Batman. It's different than Adam West Batman. A project like Lego Batman, perfect place to use na 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 na. You know what I mean? Like, perfect place to be like, let's do all the Batman shit ever. And it was mwah. I have a theory that the Spider-Man animated movie coming out next year or whatever is going to do the same thing. I got a theory it's going to be like a love letter to all of Spider-Man, right? The same way that like Spider-Verse in the comics was. But to kind of use that analogy, I'm like, I gotta disagree, Mr. Elfman. You're a genius. You know what you're talking about. But it reminds me of like when before Heath Ledger passed away, somebody asked Jack Nicholson, "Hey, what do you think about the Joker being used in this upcoming Batman movie?" And Jack Nicholson was like, "I got to be honest, I'm mad that they didn't ask me." It's a thing of like, I'm sorry, Mr. Nicholson, did you not see Batman Begins? It's like a reboot, right? It's not part 3 of Batman that you did 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, it is a
You don't have a handle on Joker. You know this,
and
correct?
Then to clarify, afterwards, somebody asked him what he thought of Heath Ledger's performance and whether or not he passed away. He said, "Oh, I thought Heath was brilliant and did things I never could." And, but then understood it because he had seen the movie.
Right.
But I think a lot of times people in Hollywood are like, "Oh, they're doing a new Bond. And it's like, well, this one's different. It's Casino Royale. Kind of sort of thing. So, so because of that, like, this is a new universe. I'm sometimes a little hesitant of like, maybe don't use the old theme. Spider-Man: Homecoming did it just for the Marvel logo, and then it was Michael Giacchino original music for the rest of the thing.
There's a balance you can hit.
Yeah,
because there's a certain point where you want to do an homage, like you want to. To me, it's reassuring when I hear, like when I heard that Spider-Man theme in Spider-Man, I was like, oh, cool. It got me a little bit. It was just like, oh, I understand that that Spider-Man has this theme and how important that is to Spider-Man of the past, but you're not letting it take over your current project. And you are shining in your own way, using the previous greatness as a springboard to bounce yourself even higher. Like, that's the point of, and I think that's the mark of a good artist, where you can definitely use the past and like have it morph into something beautiful in the future. There's no such thing as anything original anymore, because everything's just kind of a rehash of remixes of stuff from the past. But I think there's still lots of great chances for people to be creative. And I think that this is going to be a big opportunity for him to use the Superman theme. And maybe we'll see something awesome. It's like that conversation we were having about Star Wars and like them firing people. Are they stifling creativity, or are they sticking to their guns? And we're still getting an awesome product. Yeah. But could the more creative product be even better? Yeah.
I find it interesting primarily because every time we talk about DC, we always talk about how DC is always about legacy. Right. Passing on, generation to generation to
Passing
generation
on the
to
torch,
generation.
but the flame is still the same.
Right. And like the one thing that I love about Man of Steel is that if you actually watch that movie and you listen to that movie, there are a lot of homoges there. Yeah. Because it was the 75th anniversary of Superman. There's little things like when the first time we see Superman fly, he passes by the Earth. That's a nice little tribute to Christopher Reeve. When he first takes off, they have sound effects from the George Reeves original series, from the black and white TV series. And I'm sure there's other things. There's like obviously things from multiple comic books and all that kind of stuff. So when he says he's using the theme, and there was also another separate article that said that Danny Elfman begged the producers to actually hire a live orchestra for a pivotal part of the movie. I'm going to assume it's for this, where he's using the Superman theme.
Yeah,
You might be.
I don't know where else you would
Yeah.
use it. I don't know why else you would, because he said it's a very emotional scene.
Right.
To me, this seems like the big turning point of the movie, where if
He
you're
comes
gonna
back.
if you're gonna bring out your big guns, you do it in that moment.
You make it big, yeah.
Yeah, so to me, it's like that 75th anniversary animated short film that came
So
out that
good.
Zack Snyder did also.
So good.
with DC and Warner Brothers. It uses half of it is the Christopher Reeve Superman movie theme. The rest of it is the Man of Steel theme, and like basically starting from like the 90s, the death of Superman and beyond, it uses that. We get hints towards like Smallville, Kingdom Come, all these crazy, all these really really cool things.
It works, yeah.
So I embrace it. I love the fact that maybe they do, and he said it's going to be a really small capacity. It's apparently only going to be in like 2 minutes of the movie. It could end up being more. Who knows?
I'm okay with that.
And like I was saying earlier, like I could be dead wrong. It could be a situation where the scene happens, the moment happens, it's the movie's working, we're built up to this moment, and we see a red boot come up, and we just hear ba 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 ba, and we could all just be like, "Oh fuck!"
I would
It would be
lose
the
my
coolest
shit.
thing. It could be the most amazing thing ever. So it could be awesome.
And that's kind of how I feel about it. Is I know Danny Elfman won't go back and put his Batman's theme into it, because I think at this point, like, I think with Batman it's a little different, because I think because we've had so many different iterations of Batman,
yes,
there's a lot more to kind of play with and create something new. Whereas with Superman, aside from Man of Steel, we really haven't had. Like, Superman Returns was a part of the Donner universe.
Right.
And we really haven't had any other interpretation of that character. It's been the same character.
I also got to say, too, just like most of John Williams' work, truly, this is not a knock on Danny Elfman, because Danny Elfman is so good at what he does. But that Batman theme, it's perfect for Tim Burton's Batman.
Totally.
Yeah, if you use that anywhere else, it's kind of weird.
It's very, Tim Burton-y. It's very...
It doesn't fit.
But John Williams' Superman theme is kind of timeless. It really is.
Yeah.
You could, in the same way his Star Wars scores, in the same way Jaws, in the same way, it's different.
To go back to your point too, Adam. Like, I don't think that Batman theme from the animated series is iconic and it works there. But you also have to. I'm sure he's taking into account the gravity of Superman possibly coming back and what that means to the story.
It's a big moment.
It's not necessarily like he could have his own Batman theme or maybe slightly use a Batman theme, but the powerful moment has to come from Superman if he comes back. It's going to be a big weighty moment.
That we're all cheering for.
Exactly, and that's the moment when you use something classic, because he could be hinting at like, hey, this Superman's going to be a little bit more of what you remember rather than the version that we have so far. So it could mean a lot of things, and it could be interpreted a lot of different ways. But I think a guy like Danny Elfman knows exactly how to use this thing.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think you have somebody with that much experience. And I love the fact what he says too is like, he's creating little motifs for all the other characters.
Yeah,
like,
read that part.
Sure. So he says, I created very simple motifs when he's talking about the other characters.
Yeah.
There's so many themes. You can't just do a big theme for everything. So I created a motif for Flash, for Aquaman, and Cyborg.
I love that.
But they're very simple things, and DC understood that. I said, these things may never be used again, but I'm giving you all the components should you wish to have things to build on. So they either will or they won't, but that's why I approach a project like this. You have to take the attitude that this is the beginning of a mythology, and it all matters. It all comes to fruition, and with any luck, they will.
That's
Damn,
great.
son, I like that because it's universe building, it's world building on a musical scale. It's
and
great.
It's kind of a bummer because I love that Flash theme from the '90s. It would be awesome if they threw that in there, but I'm also fine if they don't. And he creates something very I feel like Danny Elfman and John Williams. The one thing that they can do very well, they can create that 5 to 7 note sort of like dun dun
right.
dun dun
It's just
dun.
like,
It's
and you're like, that's
instantly
Batman.
iconic. Instantly iconic.
Yeah, and you can tell. You can sometimes even tell from the first note that's like,
Exactly.
oh, I know what that is right
Exactly.
away when it's that iconic. And if anybody's going to do it, it's this guy.
Yeah,
you know?
so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he does with the score.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see sort of how this movie shapes up after it's changed hands from Zack Snyder to Joss Whedon, and to see how both of these visions sort of come together as one. But I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what he has in store for us musically. I think it's going to be a real treat, and to actually get to see what these themes are for these other characters, and then next year we'll see how James Wan's Aquaman, whether it uses that or not, takes it to the next step. I think that's going to be really cool.
I think it would be great if if they were like, Danny Elfman, you're doing Aquaman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that'd be awesome to just keep it going. They did it with Brian Tyler, did a couple of Marvel movies in a row where it's like you're doing Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World and Avengers Age of Ultron with Danny Elfman and to sort of keep that continuity. Silvestri did Captain America and then Avengers. Yeah. And it's kind of nice sometimes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm telling you, man. I think I've kind of like, I feel like sometimes I do start that trend a little bit for some people where I'm like, listen to film scores when you're reading comics. It brings it to a whole nother level.
It really
it's
does.
So dope.
Really
so
does.
dope. I'm excited. We're getting Justice League a score, man.
I know.
Yeah.
That's going to be so dope.
You guys are going to be
right
really
now,
excited.
I've been listening to, every time I read a Justice League comic, I'm listening to Man of Steel.
Yeah.
By Hans Zimmer. That's what I'm listening to. If I read a Flash comic, I'm listening to Blake Neely's score for the new CW show, which there's some good stuff there.
The
really
season
good
1
stuff.
score is so
yes,
good.
really good stuff. So I just want more superhero score so that I have more to listen to when I read comics.
Do you guys think that they will incorporate the Justice League cartoon theme in some capacity?
Dude, I would. That would be. This would. I mean, this is the time is now. That time is now.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I would freak out at? Speaking of that time is now, is if we heard bum ba bum 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 ba da da dum Super
really
Friends.
want them to go
Bum
back.
ba dum. Yeah.
Yep.
Challenge of the Super Friends.
You're going way back.
And I was like,
I don't know that one.
I was humming that, and I was like, what would that sound like with like a modern orchestral? I don't know.
I found an orchestral version of it. It's
Really?
really cool.
Oh, yeah?
So I think like a college band
They
like
tried
orchestra
it.
did it.
That tingles
Yeah.
my jangles. I want it.
So I was on campus. I was at UCLA the other day, and the band started playing music. Like they played. So the whole band was out there. They were all
Like
practicing.
the marching band?
Yeah,
Cool.
They played California Love.
Love it.
They played Snoop Doggy Dogg, like Snoop Doggy Dogg's theme. Like they played Take On Me by Aha. They played like so much cool stuff, and it's so cool to listen to a big
cool.
band with trumpets and drums and everything's just so like big and epic, and it breathes a whole new life into the music.
It's fun. It's fun when you hear like they're doing new songs. It's like Pharrell's Happy. You're
Yeah.
like, that just came out.
You're like, holy
That sounds
shit,
awesome.
that's great. You guys are fast.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been out for 3
You guys are
days.
talented.
These guys are fast.
It's like they know how to read music.
I love it.
Oh man,
love it.
So good, so good.
Cool.
Moving on to the world of the Venom verse, not the Spider Verse. Oh god, this is gonna go downhill real
it's
quick.
already-
Venomverse is a new comic that's coming out, but that's not what
Oh,
we're talking
boy.
about. We're talking about the movie.
Yeah, we're talking about the movie Venom, starring Tom Hardy and Riz Ahmed, being directed by Ruben Fleischer. It's coming out next year.
Do we know who Riz Ahmed's playing?
I don't think we do.
Are people just saying Carnage because he's the only other character
In the movie right
that would be
now?
related to Venom?
That's
Maybe.
exactly why they're saying
Yeah.
Carnage.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Okay.
Yeah.
holds no water.
But as of right now, Michelle Williams is in talks. Apparently, it's a pretty close to done deal. But she's in discussions, in talks, in negotiations, whatever phrase you want to use, to be in the movie. Not a whole lot as to who she's going to be playing. All it says is that she's going to play a district attorney who will possibly be Tom Hardy's love interest. Sony had no comment on the casting, but I also don't think we know which version of Venom Tom Hardy's playing. They haven't said if it's Eddie Brock or Flash Thompson or whomever.
I would be surprised if it was not Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
Not just because they use Flash Thompson in Spider-Man: Homecoming,
Fairly due to popularity, right?
but I think because you mean look at Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like most people when they think of Venom, they think of the 80s or 90s version of the character, and that was Eddie Brock, a big built guy.
Yeah.
I would be surprised.
He's already in training mode, but I think to get somebody like Michelle Williams, who's like I think she's been nominated for an Oscar multiple times.
She's a phenomenal actress. She's such a good actor.
She was so great in Manchester by the Sea. She really only has one pivotal scene, and it's gut-wrenching. Blue Valentine, the movie that she's in with Ryan Gosling. Every time I watch that movie, it makes me so depressed about
Brokeback
life.
Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain, yeah. She's
amazing performance.
She's
in
one of those
Brokeback Mountain.
actresses that I think slowly has become one of those actors that people look at and they say like this. She's gonna have a really amazing career, and eventually she will get sort of the verbal recognition. Like she gets it now, but I feel like it's really only in the industry if you're here.
Yeah.
I think outside people don't really know or understand exactly what kind of an actress she is yet. But she's regardless of who she's playing, she's a great catch. So Sony it seems to be really investing in the talent of this movie. I obviously still don't know how I feel about the movie itself, but to have Tom Hardy, Riz Ahmed, and Michelle Williams, I'm like, okay, Ruben Fleischer, what do you got?
Exactly. I think
I can't say that for this movie yet. Go, Hector.
Well,
go,
I was going to say, like, we can't say it for the movie.
Yeah.
But I was going to say because of the limited information that's been put out, and because of maybe some of the fact that it will have nothing to do with Spider-Man, or that they can't mix that up and stuff. I think maybe because of some of those hindrances as to what I think we're sort of used to when it comes to a movie like this, where we're hearing about its cinematic universe, and we're hearing about how it's connected, and we're hearing about what characters the actors are going to play, and we're hearing about what's the costume going to like. We're so used to hearing all this kind of stuff, and filling in those blanks for other superhero properties that, because of Venom's like lack of info so far, at the very least they have a stacked cast. At the very least they can go, well, look at the talent we have on board, and of course I'm going to see it because it's Venom, but secondly I'm going to see it because Riz Ahmed. Do you know what I mean? Like,
the dude's a genius.
At least that's something that they can point to and go, we have a fantastic cast with this, and it kind of makes me think like, damn, maybe they have a really good script. Maybe this will be the movie that us fanboys are the most wrong about.
I really hope so, because I fucking love Venom.
Yeah, of course.
I fucking love Venom.
Of course, man.
He was part of the reason why I started reading comics in the first place.
He's my third favorite Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
And I'm not rooting against this, but I think that this movie has a bit of an uphill battle with trying to shed that image of this is a cash grab. This is we're trying to cut out the middleman.
It's not a part of Spider-Man's universe.
That's what it feels like.
It's what it feels like, and it to me it almost seems like the job of this movie, with trailers, with information, is to convince me otherwise, because that's kind of what their job is with Han Solo too. We talked about this. It's like, okay, wow us. You're gonna go for this thing, this very popular character, as opposed to a new fresh thing. Then do it. Then go for it and wow us. And we're all gonna be there watching that first trailer, and we will make that decision. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna have to figure that stuff out. So that's what it comes down to. It's like, I'm not rooting against this. If this thing ends up being a breakout rated R hit and shows me a side of the character that I never like, that just like, oh my god, it's the best version of Venom I've ever could think of, and you never need Spider-Man, and do your own thing, make 8 Venom movies. Like, odds of that happening probably not likely.
Very
slim to none.
But
you really sold it though, Hector.
When I'm not going to rule it out, I guess, and I'm hoping that it's good, because these actors deserve good stuff.
I agree with everything you said, Hector. Absolutely agree with it. I'm hoping this movie goes the route of Gambit and just tanks in pre-production and just like, you know what? It's too difficult. I don't know why we decided to not make it in the Spider Universe. We're gonna redo the thing and make it
with
in the
Marvel.
Spider Universe.
Try to keep Tom Hardy.
Why not?
I know.
That Spider-Man movie did great in the box office.
It's the highest grossing superhero movie this year.
Did
Spider-Man Homecoming?
No,
it's gotta be Wonder
Woman. I think it passed Wonder Woman. Yeah.
I think.
Wow.
Sure.
I don't know. It's not like we have a computer or anything in front of us. But anyway, but that's the thing. Like, there's so much red tape right now. You're writing yourself into such a difficult corner that other studios are sort of leading the way. Like, DC Extended Universe has it. Marvel has had it for a while. And it seems like Valiant's going to be doing their own thing. And they're not writing themselves into a corner where, like, oh, no, well, this is separate from this.
Sure.
Not, like, the Harbinger is different from Woody and Quantum and, like, all this stuff. And it's not like that. And this Venom movie, it feels like
separate. It just feels
separate. It feels separate. Yeah. And I don't like the fact that you're separating one of Spider-Man's greatest villains from him.
And which sucks. And not just that. He's a great character, and I will argue that I think he is a great character, especially the Eddie Brock version. But
absolutely.
Even just like the idea of Venom in a symbiote,
could
be really cool and vital to the Marvel universe.
Right.
Remember Old Man Logan? How there's a Venom T-Rex.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Those kinds of little things where it's like, imagine sprinkling that in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, or in a bigger Avengers movie later.
Think about the possibilities of a symbiote. Like, you can have the symbiote or a symbiote clone or any kind of symbiote take over a character, and you instantly have an evil version of that character that you can play around with so much. And those symbiotes, it's not like those symbiotes are easy to defeat either. Their symbiotes are very strong creatures who do, they play a big role, especially in arguably one of Marvel's greatest characters, Spider-Man. Like,
totally. I was just thinking, like, imagine the possibilities. That Marvel, Fox, work something out, do a similar deal, Fantastic Four, boom, goes over to Marvel Studios. That's already huge.
Right.
Imagine if in Phase 4 or Phase 5, they're like, okay, we're going to do the symbiote with Tom Holland Spider-Man. Like, let's do a movie where he has it, and let's do it the way a little bit closer to the comics and less like Spider-Man 3. And in that movie, Reed Richards is the one that tells Peter, "This is an alien. It's attaching it." Like that kind of moment where she's like, "What?"
Those little tiny tidbits.
We have to sonic blast it off.
But you're taking away from it. You're taking it away from us by writing it in its own Venom verse, which is absolutely stupid. That's why I'm hoping this. To go back. I agree with you, Hector. And I want to think about. I know. The beer's putting me in a bad mood.
Who's got after?
But truly, that's all I want. Like, I hate to be a naysayer and I hate to nag on things like this, but sometimes it's better to just put a horse out of its misery. You know.
On a happier note,
no shit.
On a happier note, I'd like to point out that Spider-Man: Homecoming is the highest-grossing movie of 2017 worldwide. Domestically, it has not beat Guardians or Wonder Woman.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, Spider-Man's huge in Japan. Spider-Man's huge all
over the world.
Yeah. Yes, he's a recognizable icon.
Any thoughts and or guesses you'd like to take as to who she could be playing? I already saw Black Cat. People meant saying Black Cat. And I'm like, well,
I don't know.
I don't think so. I see her as playing a character that is love interest to Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock, and I think in the comic books there was a blonde woman who was Venom for a hot second. Maybe I'm thinking of Lady Punisher, but there was a storyline where like 5 symbiotes. No, there was definitely a Lady Venom, and it was a blonde woman. Yeah. So I'm trying to dig through my 90s comics knowledge, and right now in the comics, somebody's writing it.
She had the almost Spider-Man-like spider, but then she had her hair still sticking out.
And I remember 90s comics, she had big old boobies. They
all had big old boobies.
Yeah. So it was that. Yeah. It was like, imagine if Venom.
Now I remember.
Imagine if Venom
was a chick,
big old boobs.
And she was fucking hot.
And here's the thing. So like, I bet you she's playing the love interest who at the end she might get, the Venom symbiote for a second, and then Michelle Williams has to take it off, and then Eddie Brock's like saves her. I don't know.
Are you gonna make villain the protagonist? Oh God, never mind. I don't want to think about this.
Let's just bury it. Let's just put a dead horse out of, or let's put a horse out of its misery.
Holy moly!
So we're gonna watch the first 6 minutes of Gifted.
Let's do it.
The TV shows, the Legion and the Gifted, I'm not really following so much of the news on these in particular shows.
We don't really follow TV.
Not too much. I tend to usually pay more attention to the stuff that's on the CW.
Yeah.
Honestly, most of the Marvel stuff I kind of don't.
I'm kind of bummed. I found out that Black Lightning is going to be a mid-season premiere, as opposed to it's not coming out here in the fall. It'll be next. It'll be like in the spring. Which I was like, I can't wait to see that. Yeah. That's the one that I'm. But
I know we watched the trailer for this previously, and it looked pretty cool. It was a cool take to kind of see. To me, this felt sort of like what Heroes was in 2006, where we're not going big and crazy. It's really supposed to
save the cheerleader, save the world.
This very sort of personal story, but we'll see.
Let's watch
6
this.
minutes.
All right, let's look at this
and play.
Attention all units. Fugitive suspect spotted at Grand and 17th.
Unit 2325 responding.
Is that CG Rain?
I think so. Oh no, that's real rain. Oh, the stuff in the front of the screen is fake.
Unit 1835, we have a visual on the suspect heading east towards Wellington.
Copy that. Coming up on Wellington now.
Oh, she's fast.
Run, girl.
She's fast. I think she might be gifted.
Does that stand for mutant?
Yep.
It's Jamie Chung.
Come on.
She's playing Blink.
On the ground now. Put your hands on your head.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
The effects look good. Bye.
Rad.
Yeah.
Stop!
I'd love to get away from police that way.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, I like that.
Blink
I like
some of
that.
the siren. That is cool.
But the rest of the light wouldn't have worked if that. Anyway, sorry.
No, maybe they might be on separate,
So one's
batteries or whatever.
Anything?
Doesn't matter.
Working on it.
It is very
You
irrelevant.
think she's here, man? I mean, she was just 2 miles away.
I'm gonna track her with my tattoo.
Oh, that's what's his name.
She's close.
Warpath?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was also in X-Men Days of Past, right?
I think so.
She's moving strangely.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he just likes keeping us out in the cold.
Everyone's so good looking.
Yeah.
This must be a TV show.
Everyone's too handsome.
Look.
What is it? Light hands? What'd you find?
What is it? Finger lights?
Yeah.
Finger lights. What'd you find?
Well, that's interesting.
Told you.
Eagle tattoo. What is it?
Hey, you all right?
No,
Want me to
he'd
warm
be
you up?
bracelets.
Okay, you can warm me up later, though.
Oh, I'm gonna hold you to that.
Oh, finally, some characters in the X-Men movies are gonna have some
They're
sex.
gonna bone.
Muy sexy.
Aren't you expecting like the Terminator to come through in a
Yeah.
little portal? James Cameron. That's what it feels like.
She's there. Inside.
Wow. Wow. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum.
That synth. That's the Terminator score. It's awesome.
Oh my god.
I can't
It's
even
okay,
look at
we're
you right
just
now.
gonna talk. Oh, okay, hey, hold up.
She's
Wait a
back, girl.
minute. Okay, whoa, whoa.
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 Calm down, all right?
Whoa, like, calm
You
down,
cops.
okay?
I can't go back.
Oh, her
We're not
eyes are
cops.
huge.
Okay, we heard you broke out of the mutant detention center and we came looking.
I don't understand. Who are you?
Just a couple of freaks, same as you.
Is that Polaris? Oh shit, it is. She grabbed a
I'm
magnetic
Marcos.
stapler.
This is Lorna. And trust me, we have all been where you are, or worse.
Lorna.
We can help. Now
My
come
dad's
with us.
Magneto.
We can get you someplace safe.
Guys.
We got company.
It's trouble.
Oh, close.
Close.
Is
Come on,
this
get
like-
dressed. You're with us now.
Is this Jason Momoa circa Baywatch?
Yeah. He's gonna be Momoa
What
in
is
like
it?
8 years.
Coming fast this way. Kill the lights.
How many?
At least 10 from the west and south.
Just portal them out of there.
Yeah,
Why
she's
do you
gonna
flip
blink him
that
out of
table,
there.
dude? Come on.
Fucking hate tables, dude.
Fuck tables.
Fuck tables.
Hey man, you also what Jason Momoa did at Comic Con.
That's
He
true.
broke a chair.
Police Department. We know the fugitive is in the building. Come out now or we will open fire.
Whoa.
What I like is characters like Lorna, who she just used her power. There's a green like effect.
Yeah,
A green
yeah.
glow. That's very comic booky.
Yeah.
Because technically her power is like Magneto, where he could just like move metal.
Yeah.
So in the real world, you don't.
Nothing to see.
Yeah, there's
But she has a
there's-
visualization
yes,
of her power.
which I like. It's comic booky,
yeah,
you know.
I like it.
He's got that
Ah,
Cuban
there you
beat.
go. I was wondering.
Boom, chicky,
There you go.
boom,
Chick, chicky, boom, chick, chicky, boom,
Yeah.
chick, chicky, boom.
Cops are like,
Oh,
he is the modest guy.
Although he's the hottest guy in Havana. In Havana.
Who did that light thing?
light fingers.
Light fingers?
Light fingers did it.
Oh shit.
Is he? Is that Pete
Oh.
Wisdom? Oh
Oh,
snap!
snap. Look, he's got.
He's about to Peter Petrelli the shit out of the scene.
He's a being made of pure light.
Yes.
Don't kill him. Because everything they say about mutants will be justified. Don't do it. Oh, Lorna. Oh. Oh. That's great.
Hands behind your back.
Marcos. That's not Pete Wisdom. They got her. You know what?
Oh, that's it?
I liked it.
6
Oh,
minutes.
shit.
6 minutes.
I'm gonna be real. We were being snarky and making jokes and stuff. I was having a good time.
Yeah, actually.
It was well shot, well acted. I was into it.
Yeah, that I wanted more.
Yeah.
You thought we were gonna watch a whole 40
No,
minute
seriously, I was
episode?
like, oh, I can't wait to see what happened. But
I would watch
snap.
that show.
I dug it. It was entertaining. I just feel like it was too long.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, in a movie, that would be 2 minutes. Do you know what I mean? In a
Right.
movie, that
Yeah.
whole sequence would just be.
like the beginning. This is mostly editing stuff, but for me, it's like we don't need that many cuts to show Jamie Chung running away from the police. Get to it. Get to it. Get to the point. I preferred it would just been like this could have been.
that's why you don't watch TV, Adam.
Yeah, I know. This could have been like this could have been 2.5 to 3 minutes, and I would have preferred to just get into the action more. But in terms of like what it actually is, like it's fun, it's entertaining. Yeah, it looks like
that was
it's a
better
cool
than I
intro.
expected it to be.
Same.
Yeah.
I was
A lot
afraid
better
that
than I
with the
expected.
trailers and especially the billboards, there's a lot of billboards of like the main family of Gifted.
Yeah.
And it's a white family.
Yeah.
And it's with X-Men logo, and it says something like
Yeah.
Where you
like
going with this, Hector?
different is powerful. I'll tell you in a second. I'll tell you in a second. With this like good-looking white family, they're like a handsome white family that have powers that none of their characters are like mutated.
Right.
And it's a thing where like, okay, sometimes when you use characters like that to do X-Men stories, it kind of loses a little bit of the punch for me, the oomph, because that reminds me of the old school classic X-Men, the original 5, Cyclops, Iceman, Beast, Jean Grey, Angel.
Yeah.
And those 5 characters, I mean, I love those characters, and they've all kind of evolved and everything. And back then, though, some of the mutations included Beast had big hands and feet. Angel had wings. He
was
to
just
hide.
like a buff guy, Beast.
Buff guy.
Yeah.
But basically, they were all like good-looking white kids.
Yeah.
And it's a different era. I get it. It's comics. It's 1963. But the X-Men, I feel like, hit it when it brought in the Wolverine cast because it had Nightcrawler, who was a demon-looking
Blue
German.
guy.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it had Native American Warpath. It had African Storm. It had Irish Banshee. It had Russian Colossus. It had this international cast that I think was easier to sort of use the analogy of people that are marginalized, people
Right.
that are oppressed, people that are hated and feared for being different, as opposed to good-looking white people
Russian
that have
people
to
are just angry, though.
hide a thing. They're just angry. And so what I was worried about was, and not to say that you can't have a story like that starring a white character, obviously. Of course you can. Of course. I'm just saying that I was worried that like we were going to focus on this family and it was going to be like, we're so different. And I was going to be cynical and go, guys, just you'll be fine. You guys are set. You know what I mean? I was going to be like, y'all are set. Like,
y'all have a house.
the country's mad at black football player millionaires for kneeling. You guys are fine. You've got cool powers. Just live your lives. I was afraid that's what it was going to be. We didn't see any of that family.
No.
But the fact that we saw Jamie Chung as Blink,
Yeah.
like a pretty, like we had like a Native American guy look like
Seemed
the
like
Jason
it, yeah.
Momoa dude. We had the Warpath character. We had
Latino guy.
maybe a
as-
Latino guy,
as-
Marcos,
as
whatever, like-
Marcos as light dude.
I was like, okay, I want to
Yeah.
know more about these
Yeah,
characters.
yeah.
I was interested in these characters on the run. I just feel like the analogy of people that are marginalized and hated and feared, it just works a little bit better when you can use a very very wide net cast of characters.
Right,
You see what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
It's always been one of the X-Men strengths is that they have one of the most diverse casts.
I would
in
say
superhero
that is
one of
the
the teams.
X-Men's strength.
It's one of the strengths, man.
That's
I
part of
think
the.
that's what people kind of define the X-Men as being.
It's part of the reason why why Wolverine is my favorite because he's the one who looked most Mexican to me because he was a little short, hairy dude, like
Yes.
little stocky, hairy guy, and I was like, oh, cool.
You were
And
10 and you went,
Yeah.
there I am.
Like,
And
hey,
he-
there's a guy that looks like my
I
dad.
mean, legit, he's my dad's height. He's
Yeah.
5'3". You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when I read comics and they're like, Wolverine's this guy, he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
He's 5'3". He's got hairy arms. He's stocky dude. I'm like, I get that guy.
Yeah,
that's
he's
my
like,
dad.
Oh, yeah, that's my dad.
I get it.
Totally.
Yeah, man. It's so it was cool to meet some of these side characters before we get to the
the meat and potatoes.
The meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
I'm in high school and I'm a
Right,
kid and I
right,
have
right.
powers and to kind of go that route. I'm interested in these characters.
Plus, I think
Yeah.
the cool thing too is, you mentioned side characters, but I feel like these characters are going to be just as important as
Yeah.
that family. They're just gonna. I think we're going to get two different perspectives, which I think could be a real strength of the show, is to show how is this family affected by being mutants, and
Versus these
what does that
characters.
happen? What causes like things in their
Totally.
life versus what happens
Yeah.
to these characters? So I think that's a interesting kind of play to see how these two different worlds are treated differently, and then what happens when they come together at some
Yeah.
point throughout the show, which
Yeah.
will happen.
The show gave me Heroes vibes.
It
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Like the first season of Heroes
Yeah.
vibes, which
I
is
love
good
the first
vibes.
season.
Yeah,
That's
good. That's
it's
good.
the only good season of that show.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot. Actually, that looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I wore my X-Men shirt today.
Oh, look
Just
at
in
you.
case. Just in case.
Just in case.
I think
right?
I like that. Pretty sure I liked it better than Inhumans. So cool.
Yeah, that 6 minutes was way better than Humans. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Before we go, we're gonna answer some questions from you guys. Since it was a light week, I threw out on Twitter and I said, "Hey, first 5 people to respond with a question, I'll put them up here and we'll discuss them." So, the first question comes from Andy Films 99, who asks, "Best superhero 2017 costume or suit?"
Are we talking movies or comics?
Doesn't specify. I
Doesn't
guess you can pick
specify.
whatever.
Doesn't specify.
Could be comic, TV show.
Red Locust.
The
New Red Locust costume. If you
Was
don't
that
know
this
Red
year? That was
Locust, look up
2017,
Red
right?
Locust.
That's
Yeah.
2017?
Yeah, she just debuted.
She just debuted Marvel Comics.
Just debuted.
I love it. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Google it up.
It's the yeah. You know what? Give it a Google.
Yeah,
It's worth
give it a
Google.
Googs. You'll like if you're Mexican or Latino or anything. You'll like the.
I liked the Spider-Man suit won me over plot wise in the movie. I was worried about the heads up display, the Jarvis voice. I was worried about all that stuff in the trailers, and in the use of the suit in the movie, and then when he got the suit taken away and he brought his old school suit, and it won me over. But I got to give it to Wonder Woman. I got to give it to.
Fuck off! You said Spider-Man first. So you
No.
said Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, it's an awesome costume. I think it's great, but like I got to give it to. I think Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was Wonder Woman. I think seeing that suit, realized in a live action motion picture, sort of big budget scale. You know, we've never really seen that. We've seen versions of it like on different TV shows. Some TV shows that were from like 40 years ago. Some that TV shows that never happened. We obviously saw a little bit of it in Batman versus Superman.
But it's
to
different
see the
in-
revelation and
Yes.
the impact that it had.
And the importance of the tiara, that it was Antiope's.
right,
Do you know what I mean? And like the lariat, the golden lasso.
Everything
and
had its purpose.
the sword, the
Yeah.
God Killer, all of that stuff like added to. It's for sure.
Yeah, I think the meaning, what the suit represented, and the meaning of the suit to me, which we didn't get explained in Batman versus Superman because that wasn't part of the story. But to have that sort of weight, so when she does, go into the trenches and she steps out with that suit and she says,
It's
"It's
what I'm going to
do." It's
Since
like,
you guys are talking movies, I gotta go with. I mean, it's not 2017, but I'm going Black Panther. I mean, that
right.
Black Panther, that new trailer that we got.
yeah,
Step into the
on.
spotlight.
It's hard. It's hard to get like when I first saw that Black Panther suit. It's striking. It's different than all the rest of them. It's sleek. It's sexy, but it's raw and it's powerful and it hits all the notes that a superhero costume should hit. And I haven't really been that on board with any of the movie costumes. I think what they're doing with Captain America and evolving his costume every time is great because the characters aren't stagnant. And I think the look of Iron Man's suit, I mean, it's almost, you can't even tell that he's never wearing a suit anymore because the CG is just that good. I think a character like Ant-Man is a good use of like kind of a loose fitting costume that like, it's
biker
not
outfit.
he's not like the most put together guy. So it makes sense that his costume's a little like it squeaks like whenever he his leather squeaks whenever he like presses the button, you know? So there have been a lot of good costumes, but I got to give it to Black Panther.
All right.
well done.
Next question.
Next question comes from. I should have asked Daniel how to pronounce his last name. I'm gonna go with Daniel_Ellison.
Ellison.
Is it, maybe it's just Ellison. Could be.
Ellison.
Could be.
Eli.
Shout out to Daniel.
Whatever.
If Nolan were to direct another superhero movie, which hero or villain would you pick? I will say I don't necessarily want Christopher Nolan to do any more superhero movies. I think he did a really cool Batman trilogy. And I don't really think that he has anything to add to the now very much fantasy world of superheroes. If he were to do a hero or villain movie, I would want it to be something that's in an Elseworld that doesn't exist in the current continuity. I would probably go with a Marvel title, and I'm gonna say. I'm gonna
Get to it, baby.
Well,
Get to it.
I don't want to say Wolverine because like we just had him, but I actually if they were to reboot a Wolverine movie and do it as a standalone, I'd be interested in it because I feel like
His take on it.
he's. I mean, we all know that the character has a very sort of interesting world and backstory and how he sort of lived, and he is, I would say, one of the most grounded heroes in the Marvel universe. His powers are not so. I mean, they're far fetched, but they're not
Outlandish.
so outlandish, I
Yeah.
guess, compared to some of the other ones that I feel like if he were to gravitate, based on sort of his directing skill and what his tastes are, I feel like a character like either Punisher or Wolverine would be two characters that he would really go for.
Yeah.
Punisher maybe even more so, actually.
Do you have one, Hector?
I'm going to go pass. I will say, kind of like Adam said, I'm like, I don't necessarily, I know people love Christopher Nolan. He's one of those directors, it's like people are like, if Nolan were to, you know exactly who everybody's talking about, and he's huge in like the fanboy and film, like, world of fandom and stuff, and everybody loves his stuff. And I feel like, man, he gave us 3. I don't want to ask more of the guy. Like, keep doing your thing. Keep doing do the stuff you want to do. I don't ever want somebody to force him to be like, okay, but now do Superman. because like he wasn't interested in 2008, and they probably would have let him. They probably would have been like, Mr. Nolan, would you like to include a a Nightwing cameo in this? And he was like, no. You know what I mean? Like
but here's a kind of Robin.
He's not into it, so that's fine.
I hear what you guys are saying, but I would want him to do a Mr. Freeze movie.
Ooh.
How dope would it be if he tackled Mr. Freeze
Again,
in his tragic past?
Because I love.
And he talks like this because he has a globe over his head.
Yeah, man. It's like when he was doing his movies, I would be fantasizing about after like Batman Begins. I was like, okay, in The Dark Knight, what if he did this villain, this villain, this villain?
Yeah.
And I loved his take on Bane.
Yeah.
I would love his take on Killer Croc. How would he make that work? Clayface, Poison Ivy,
on, bro.
Mr. Freeze.
Mr.
He would
Freeze, dude.
Crush a Mr. Freeze movie.
Crush a Mr. Freeze movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's funny because most of your guys' answers are more DC related, but I'm like, I can't really see him doing any other DC character unless we go to characters that are a lot more grounded, that don't have sort of this fantastic sort of like every time I think of now, aside from Batman, I can only think of Wolverine, the Punisher, and Doctor Doom. To me, those are three that
I was gonna say Doom, but I always say Doom.
He could probably do those three and make it in a way that's grounded enough that it has still some sort of a fantasy element
But
to
it's
it.
realism.
Yeah.
It's
But
realism.
it's the most realistic version.
Yeah.
Most realistic version that you would probably get of those characters.
Right.
So it'd be interesting, but I'm also on the fence, and I'm like, I don't need another.
But
Christopher Nolan
I'm
movie.
just saying we don't need one.
No,
and
no.
I'm glad he's not interested.
If he
anymore,
says Bond, now you got me thinking. Now I'm on board.
No shit, for sure.
Yeah.
So the next question comes from Skags42. Says, "What are you most looking forward to in November? Justice League, Thor, or The Punisher?"
Well, Punisher's out. I think it's going to be great, but like it's between Justice League and Thor for me.
Yeah.
And it's got to be, because we've seen more of it, it's got to be Thor, man. I have fallen in love with Taika Waititi as a director, his movies over the past year.
Yeah.
I've seen his movies. I just saw Boy like a few weeks ago.
Right.
Just to continually get familiar with this director's work, and seeing like they just put out like a behind the scenes of Thor, I think this morning or yesterday.
Yeah, it was.
It's
No, it was
so
this morning.
It was this morning. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It looks so fun. And it's Chris Hemsworth talking about what they wanted to do. They wanted to go epic. Taika Waititi being like, Ragnarok means the end of these characters, and that's interesting for me.
And reconstruction.
And
That's what I.
So like, everything I've seen, man, the vibe, that 80s style, that crazy outlandish, I'm stoked. I can't wait to see it. But if I had seen more of Justice League, then maybe it would be different.
It'd be
but
different.
I feel like they're really hitting us with a lot of Thor promotion right now.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Hector. But my reasoning is because I feel like, visually speaking, what we've seen from Justice League looks exactly like what we've seen in the past. Like everything just looks like
it's continuous. It's
the big fight where there's clouds and it's dark, and there's a big orange monster in flames, or a big gray monster in orange flames. Like I've seen it.
Well,
Not to write it off as like it's not going to be epic, because Jason Momoa doing that thing.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude.
That's
why I'm growing my hair out.
I have used that GIF multiple times on Twitter just to be like, if it's ever like, hey, what's up? I'm in, or like I'm down, or I'll show up. It's the Jason Momoa like hair flip.
Every time I see him do it, I go like that.
Yeah.
I wish I was that cool. But it's
now I got to point out before the internet does. There's also a giant flame monster in Thor Ragnarok.
I know there is a
with
giant
Hulk
flame
leaping
monster.
towards him.
Exactly. But this is a whole screen full of flames. It's not like I'm punching the ground and flames.
I
are coming
gotcha.
out, It's like and then there's rainbow colors. There's like neon colors. It seems like they're shooting lightsaber blasters or whatever, like phasers and
super colorful.
And also just I know, and I feel like I understand Taika Waititi, because I tend to gravitate more towards comedy movies rather than like serious dramatic movies. And the Kiwi sense of humor, I spent some time in New Zealand. The Kiwi sense of humor is just, I get it. I understand it. It's dry, but it's funny as hell. Like it's just, it's so good.
Yeah.
Watch What We Do in the Shadows, another one of his movies.
Might be his best movie.
Fucking phenomenal.
It's so
funny.
Like
it's
so
just,
funny.
I'm excited to see comedic guys go and tackle other properties, like Mr. Peel doing
Jordan
what we
Peele.
do. Yeah, Jordan Peele doing what we did in the shadows.
Peyton Reed doing Ant-Man and the Wasp, because he did
it's-
Ant-Man.
It's just cool, and I feel like comedic people who have a sense of humor, people tend to write him off as like, oh, you're just a funny guy. It's like, no. You have to understand so many complex emotions to be able to pick out and observe at what's funny. You know, like you have to understand sadness and pick out the funny things that are in sadness. Because if you listen to a lot of stand-up, it's a lot of self-deprecating comedy.
Oh, it's miserable, yeah.
They know how to pick the funny moments out of their sadness, which is sad, but for them it's a career, you know? Like, it's just comedy is very difficult, and people write it off as something that's just like, oh yeah, you're just you were the class clown, weren't you? Nah, dude, the class clown comes from something.
Right.
It comes from something deeper, and I can identify that with Taika because I feel like there's a lot that he can offer, and I feel that there's this toolbox that he has that not a lot of people are tapped into, but after this, I think it's gonna really break him into the mainstream.
Yeah, he's already being courted to maybe do what is it, Akira?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Very interesting. November's an interesting month because we have 3 movies, or I'll say 3 comic book properties that are very different.
Yeah.
You know, you got Thor Ragnarok, which seems to lean more towards sort of the comedic aspect, very colorful, Jack Kirby embracing those 70s comics and all that kind of stuff, but it's still very much about a story about the end of everything and sort of a rebooted Asgardian universe and kind of what the repercussions of all that is.
Softer reboot.
Yeah, and then you have Justice League, which is the product of 2 directors. You know, you've got Zack Snyder doing, you know, the heavy lifting for the first part of the production and the post production of the movie. Then you have Joss coming in, sort of reworking a lot of the movie from what I've been reading, and you know, putting his own sort of take or adding his take to it.
Yeah.
And then you got the Punisher, something that we know from our previous experiences of that character in the Marvel Netflix universe is very strong. Like, he's a really strong character who has a very intriguing story.
Yeah.
The most grounded probably character that they'll do in that universe, even though for the most part they've kept all of them pretty grounded. So I think my intrigue levels are different for each movie. I think, but for most anticipated, I think, you know, we've had 3 Thor movies. This will be we've had Thor in multiple movies. We had Punisher in another show. We've had some of these characters show up in previous movies in Justice League, but we haven't seen their take on Flash, Aquaman, Cyborg. We don't know what's going to happen with Superman this movie. So I think I'm the most sort of intrigued and I'm sort of mostly anticipating to see what happens with Justice League, to see how it delivers and sort of what it does with the characters and how it moves the universe forward. So I think in terms of sort of like what I'm most interested in, it's Justice League. But I think all of our anticipation levels for all these things is pretty equal. We're all excited to see everything.
Yeah. It's pretty high up there.
We're lucky, man. November's a good month.
Yeah.
Next question comes from F. Guzram. Most anticipated moment in Justice League. I think the rebirth of Superman for me.
Yeah, my most anticipated moment might not even be in this movie. I've heard rumors that Green Lantern's going to be in there. Yeah. My most anticipated moment is when the Justice League, the 7, unites.
That's what I was going to say.
Saying? That's it. And it might be Justice League 2. It might be whatever. But like, if they're hinting or building towards that, I want to see Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Green Lantern, and maybe Martian Manhunter. If I see that, my brain will explode out of the back of my skull. Like, I will be like, no! Like, that'll be the most incredible
and that's
thing.
How Hector died.
And I love Cyborg, but I would love to see Cyborg, Beast Boy, Raven, Starfire, Nightwing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that's my
but
that's my
you
era.
Can only dream. A girl can only dream.
Exactly. That's my era.
My moment's exactly the same. In Justice League, when Hawkgirl comes in, when when Green Lantern, when John, well, not necessarily a specific Green Lantern, but when Jon Stewart shows up and is the Green Lantern.
Oh man.
When Martian Manhunter morphs into some crazy alien.
When we see an old Chinese man turn into a crazy dragon and then turn into John Jones, like that moment
from the
cartoon
and when he tells
show.
the story of how his family was killed by the White Martians,
yeah,
it's that's the Justice League that I hope they're building to.
I'm sure they are.
We'll see. I mean, that's why I'm really excited. I guess I'm just excited to see the movie. I want to see what they're doing.
I'm just excited to finally see all these characters together. Warner Brothers has had these properties for so many years, decades, and it's like, why haven't you done this already? But they're doing it now. It's happening.
Right.
So I can't wait to see kind of what they have in store.
Yeah.
Final question from Nate the Great 736, who asks, what superhero film, in your opinion, has had the best graphics / CGI?
Interesting.
I think I'm going to go with Iron Man 1. because Stan Winston suits.
Because that silver suit, huh?
That silver suit,
Yep.
the CG in it blends so well with the practical. And that was the first movie where they're like, Robert Downey, can you get into the suit? And he was like, yes, I need this opportunity.
Yeah.
Every movie after that, he's like, I'll wear half of that.
Yeah.
You know, and it still looks great, but there's still sometimes a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah.
And, you know, to see him in the thing, to see the CG versus real, like the Mark I in the cave, man, you go back and watch that movie and it still holds up. Holds up.
For me, oh man, it's really hard to say because we worked on a lot of those movies. We know what's practical and we know what's not practical. For some reason, Cap 2 stands out a lot to me.
Winter Soldier's great, man.
Winter Soldier stands out to me, and not necessarily Winter Soldier's arm, but just the fact that I'm a big fan of practical effects. I like that they used a lot of practical effects in that movie. The rewatching it now, I just saw it on TV the other day. The shield looks kind of janky. Like whenever
sometimes,
especially that first fight between Bucky and Captain America.
Throws it at night.
He throws it, and like when he picks it up. When he picks it up and just goes like this, it's
time.
fake.
It's a little wobbly.
You know it's fake.
It's the only thing that I don't like about Captain America.
Because
the
it's
way they
impossible
work it.
to just like, what's it sticking it on?
But sometimes he does, like sometimes things happen where like the shield magnetically comes up or he throws it and you're like, that shit looks real.
That's like
sometimes.
the part 2 of the shield. Right now it's still straps. It's still straps of leather on a vibranium shield.
Yeah.
And so it's just, it kind of bugs me, but at the same time, I appreciate the fact that they use so many practical effects. So many stuntmen got kicked hard and flew really far. You know, there's rope work, but still, like, I appreciate the more practical side of things. And Cap 2, I think, was really when they really turned up Cap 2's strengths. Cap 1 was good. You saw him punching, but you didn't really notice his
Cap
super
2,
soldierness.
in the beginning when he goes onto the ship.
Exactly.
At
And he
night
kicks
in the
that dude
stealth
over the
suit.
edge. I was like, oh,
Was he wearing
shit.
a parachute? No, he wasn't.
Not at all. He just dove into the water.
Yeah.
And specifically, one point that I'm talking about is the elevator scene in Cap 2, where he's like, before we do this, boys, does anybody want to get out? Yeah. And I'm just like, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's cool. And it was a big practical fight, you know, like he didn't really use his shield at that point. So I guess I'm not really vouching for the VFX. I'm just the lack thereof and them making it blend seamless when the big VFX do show up.
You know what else I got to give a shout out to? Ant-Man.
Oh, yeah,
surprisingly good
Yeah.
visual effects and a lot of shrinking and growing. And Captain America: Civil War. The airport scene was like 99% CG.
Yeah, it was.
That's some good shit.
That was a good shit,
Those are some shots where you're like, how did they do that? Some of those shots, you know, like with a fully CG Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't tell at first.
There are moments now you look at it and you're like, that's definitely CG. But the first time, you know what I mean? The first time you saw it, you're like, man, they really got him flying around
like,
in
he
there.
looks really smooth.
It's just
He's like super smooth.
It's impressive that is in a scene with Iron Man, Vision, Black Panther, Captain America. You know, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's kind of and it is a hard question to answer because we've had so many different sizes of CG in these movies.
Right.
If I were to pick a really big CG action sequence, I think for me actually the first Avengers where they're fighting the Chitauri in New York.
Yeah, that's
all
pretty
the
good.
different elements. Like there's if you go online and you look at anatomy of a scene, or type in anatomy of a scene, the Avengers. There's an ILM featurette that shows you how they break down just a piece of that New York fight.
Yeah,
nuts.
It's so insanely
Massive.
impressive. It mostly focuses on that entire one shot of going from character to character to
rotates?
character. Yeah, going to all the different characters. It's really impressive to see how they put all that stuff together. Filming a lot of these actors on separate plates. A lot of it is CG. Doing virtual camera passes through cities and stuff. So in terms of like sort of the technical aspect, I like that kind of stuff. Like going into it, I know it's CG.
Right.
I know a lot of it's CG, and I know it has practical elements placed into it. But the fact when you do a really big sequence like that, a really long sequence, and it all works really, really well.
It's impressive, dude.
It's really impressive. And I mean, like that, when we worked on that movie, that was one of the longest shots that took to finish.
Yeah.
Because it's massive.
Yeah, that one was there from the beginning of the show
It's
to
thousands
the
of
end.
frames. It's thousands of frames
Yeah.
long. Obviously, like when you're talking about movies that use a nice blend of practical and CG. For me, the first Iron Man for sure.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely, the first Iron Man. I think it does a beautiful job, and I think Jon Favreau, when he talks about the commentary, the Mark II, they did a version of the suit up sequence in the house, in the garage, where they had a practical suit, and then they made a digital version to see if they could match it over the Stan Winston thing.
It's that silver suit again,
and it's almost it's more or less looks exactly like you could not tell
Very
which
impressive.
is which.
Yeah.
So to me, the first Iron Man movie, I think Iron Man's visual effects for the suit has kind of diminished a bit.
A little bit
throughout the movies. I think
there's a little bit of sliding now.
I think in Civil War, it's honestly probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
Especially when he's talking to Spider-Man and he doesn't have the helmet on.
Yeah.
You can totally tell that it's CG.
There's too much room here.
Yeah, not only that, like the shading. It's the same kind of thing we talked about with Cyborg in the Justice League trailer. When you have two elements, a practical element and a CG element, and the shading is not correct, where the black levels don't match and like the highlights don't match.
It's also the lip motion was just a little bit off, just a few frames off.
Yeah, and it's all about tracking and how things move or what sort of mechanical motions they add to something that didn't happen on set and all that kind of stuff. But so it's for me, it would have to be like that big scene in Avengers. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is great because of how it also does that,
Blends
where they
it all
utilize
together.
CG and real stuff. The first Iron Man and like Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, for the most part, when it uses CG, you know it's CG, but it's done in such a it's done so well that you can't really critique for how good or bad it is because it has real quality.
I want to give a shout out to totally different style, but the incredibly stylistic 300 by Zack Snyder.
Oh yeah,
like that's a whole
love that
separate
movie.
game of CG, but like the way that they use visual effects in that film,
Yeah.
carry it over to Watchmen as well.
Yes.
Watchmen, hyper realistic, not going for realism, but Dr. Manhattan in that movie.
Right.
The
Looked
effects
great.
with Night Owl and Silk Spectre fighting and like the bone crunching and like, you know, I love that style for that movie, for that story, that alternate reality.
Actually,
and
yeah.
For 300
but,
and Watchmen, it was
but
really
again,
great.
like totally different style, super, not that Marvel movies or other superhero movies are like going for realism per se.
Right.
It's all exaggerated and hyper realistic, but the Watchmen style of like, you know, just like
gritty
visually
kind of realism.
I also, if in that case, I will definitely point out also Sin City.
Sin City, man.
Oh,
Shot completely
Sin City
on
1.
green screen.
Sin City
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Shot all on green screen.
I haven't seen the
Very
second one. Did
little-
you guys see the
I haven't
second one
seen it.
yet?
I have it, but I haven't seen it.
It's not good. I gotta check it out.
I'm bummed.
But
But
yeah.
yeah, that was actually very, very impressive because again, very stylized, just like 300 and just like Watchmen, in a really radical way, and it was all completely shot on green screen using like I think at one point they have like a walking platform that they can turn with.
That's cool.
If you have the Sin City, or if you don't have the Sin City
don't
Blu-ray
yet.
or DVD, there are some really good behind the
They
scenes.
came out with a little box set of the two movies, and the second one even in 3D.
That's what I have.
That I need to watch. Can you let me borrow it? Because I want to watch that movie to be like, would I buy that box set or would I just want the first one?
If you're
but
really,
I would own
if
the
you're
first
really
one for
curious
sure.
if you're really interested in like behind the scenes stuff and like making of, Robert Rodriguez, most of his movies, El Mariachi, Desperado,
Yeah,
all those,
there's good
he has
special
really,
features.
really good special features on how he makes the movies and how he does some of the practical effects, like how the scene where Johnny Depp doesn't have an eye in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, like it's really good.
I just finished watching all the special features for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which made me appreciate the movie more. And then I saw all the stuff for Wonder Woman, and I was bummed there wasn't a Patty Jenkins commentary on Wonder Woman.
Not?
There's not.
Oh, wow.
But they still have a lot of great making of and some great retrospectives about the importance of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That it made me like appreciate the just the thrust and everything behind Wonder Woman more.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I already love the movie. For Guardians, all the special features made me love the movie more because I was like, oh shit, yeah, cool. What cool details and thematics and, you know, all the themes and everything that they're working with. And James Gunn, hearing him talk about it's great. Hearing Patty Jenkins in interviews talk about Wonder Woman is amazing. But then to hear everybody talk about the importance of this character made me love that whole aspect of it.
Why do you guys think I love Lord of the Rings so much? Because
Behind
they
the
came out
scenes,
with
baby.
the extra
best
bonus
special
footage.
features.
Every movie
45
has
version.
another.
Yeah.
Every
Another
movie has
two
another
movies of-
two
of
movies of
behind-the-scenes
behind the
movies.
scenes
buy
stuff.
the $300 box set.
No, because it's $500.
Yeah, and no 3D.
And no 3D.
Jesus.
So no, I ended up
have-
buying that set that you told me about. That was like $26, all the extended footage,
Oh, right.
and all the bonus footage. And then I had to buy the original trilogy with the non-extended footage because apparently they don't sell all of those put together.
I have Lord of the Rings little skinny Blu-ray of like all three movies theatrical
Yep.
with some special
I have
features,
that
but
one.
like that. And then I have each of the Hobbits in their 3D
Okay.
theatrical
Okay.
cut, not extended, but
Not extended,
you know.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I got.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of Wonder Woman, you brought up Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I think it's time to reveal how you can get your little mitts and paws on a copy of Wonder
you
Woman.
Stuck around, so you
if
might
you stuck
win a
around,
DVD.
you might have a chance of getting a
DVD.
copy.
Did I just say DVD?
You did.
Yes. You might win
did.
a VHS.
You might win a VHS.
You might win a VHS.
Videotape.
Fuck it, I'll throw in a beta. Why not?
Tape.
But so the question that we want to ask you guys is, what is something that you're looking forward to in Wonder Woman 2, or something that you would like to see in Wonder Woman 2?
Ooh.
Be it a character, maybe something part of Wonder Woman's arsenal, a story element,
A villain.
a villain.
Do you want to see a certain character come back?
Yeah.
Do you want to see Wonder Woman do a certain thing? A storyline from the comics? Whatever.
The limits
write it down
are
in the
endless.
comments.
Yes.
Let us know in the comments below, and then we'll at random pick one person, and you will get yourself a nice, lovely copy of Wonder Woman on Blu-ray.
There we go.
U.S. only. Thank you. Just want to throw that out there.
Continental, or are you shipping to
only.
Alaska and
No,
Hawaii?
wait, what if you choose a great comment and they realize that they're like out of the country?
I'm going to ask you.
Oh, okay.
Because if I have to ship this thing, well, okay, I'll do this. If you're international, I'll give you a digital copy. How about that?
Oh, you have a digital copy.
I do.
Yeah,
I
man.
do.
Oh, there you
So
go.
everyone
Hookups.
wins.
Yay.
Digicop.
Digicop.
And hopefully that digital copy will be available in your territory.
I hope so too. Otherwise, this is going to be a real clusterfuck.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, though. We'll figure
I don't know
it
how
out.
iTunes works.
Also, make sure you guys leave us the comments below. Leave us comments below on everything that we talked about in today's episode. How do you feel about Danny Elfman using John Williams' classic Superman theme in Justice League? How
do you feel about Venom?
Oh God.
How do you feel about Venom? How do you feel about the Gifted 6 minutes we watched?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I'm curious to see what people say about it. Whether they agree that maybe it was a little too long.
How do you feel about ice and beers? Because I'm not.
Please let us know how you feel about Ice and Beers, because we're about to go
God.
get real ones, because this was bullshit.
I'm already gagging thinking about that.
Also, guys, don't forget,
Garbage.
Saturday, 6 p.m., live script reading Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, part of our HyperDrive Volume 5, starting at noon, twitch.tv/HyperRPG. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. Make sure, as the internet says, smash that like button, share us all over the
Smash that
interwebs.
shit.
And
Let's get at least 200 likes on this one, you guys.
Oh, shit, that'd be dope.
At least 200.
At least.
Okay.
At the very least.
Yeah.
Hector, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the internet at Hector is Funny, and look out for new episodes of the Nickelodeon Animation Podcast coming out every Friday.
That
you know
shit
what?
is dope.
You know what came out
It's one
today?
of my favorite podcasts.
You know what came out today? What episode came out earlier today? John DiMaggio.
It already came out?
The voice of Bender. No, this comes out on Friday. The thing we're filming right now.
that's right, because, yes.
So I'm saying
that's
to the
right.
internet, you know what came out earlier today, Friday morning? The voice of
so
Bender, the voice of
confused.
Jake the Dog from Adventure Time. You know,
That guy's incredible.
And then you'll be on Pencils and
He's
Parsecs
also
tonight.
the Irish guy in
The Scotsman.
The Scotsman. There
bro,
you go.
you want to hear a little tease? He plays a Scotsman on Samurai Jack.
Uh-huh.
I asked him, I'm like, what was your favorite insult that the Scotsman threw out to Jack? And he was like, honestly, man, he goes, I can't remember if I had it in front of me. And I was like, here you go. And I had it printed out. And he was like, oh, you're good. And I said, yeah, I did my research. And then he went, you lily livered bear haggis wet, and went into it. And
Like
it
the
was
really, really long one he did?
dude,
Oh,
it
my
was
God.
amazing.
Oh,
it
my
was
God, I can't
fantastic.
wait.
So
That, honestly, Hector, I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's one of my favorites, dude.
you're the best, man.
Good job.
I love
Good
you
job.
guys.
You can find me at L_Santo Taco. I don't do podcasts, but I do this, so that's good.
Yeah.
I have to start one. I have to start one with
Yeah.
you. Just find me at Adam Havoc on all socials. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode.